Hey, I'm Dr. Sebastian Dulles with Performance Place Sports Care. Today we're going over how to stretch the hamstring. And there's going to be 4 different ways I'll show you, my 4 favorite that we use here in the office. And just an important note before we start, how do you know that you actually need to stretch your hamstring in the first place? Some people say, well, it feels tight. Other people say, well, it looks short. Now, being short, actually short of range of motion, you need to test for, and I'll show you how we test it here. Feeling tight, but say they can do the splits, doesn't really mean that it's actually tight. So, in that case, we might not stretch that person. But if we fall in the parameters of actually being short, which I'll show you now, then this is the type of progression we usually use. So, to be able to test this, we usually start with a passive stretch as well as an active one, or a test. So a passive one, usually I would be on the other end there as the examiner. I'll roll my leg up so you can see what's going on too, or roll my pan up. So usually I would bring the person without them helping, slightly unlock the knees so they don't feel like it's going to break their knee in half, more like this. And we're going to pull this up as high as we can before we feel the muscles start to tighten excessively. Now, look, roughly we're looking between 85 and 90 degrees, and what that would look like is the foot to the ceiling. Obviously, for me to do that, I have to make the rest of my body move, which is not what we're looking for. And that's an important point as well. If this leg starts to come up or the knee starts to bend, then you're just cheating yourself. Second test, active hamstring length. So for this one, I lock the knee a little bit more aggressively and have the person engage the trunk like I'm going to step on them. And I have them pull the leg up as high as they can. Hopefully they can do the same amount of motion. So again, this is an active straight leg test. What this tests more of is if the trunk or the core can assist in getting that hamstring to get a little bit more motion. Now before we get into the exercises, it's important to note these are only part of the solution. Now, obviously on YouTube, we have only a certain amount of time for your attention in these videos. They can't be hours and hours long. But to combat this, we actually have an online course that we put on the P2 Sports Care site under courses, which addresses a more comprehensive approach to why these conditions happen, why the flexibility is an issue in the first place. Because remember, there's a cause and effect to everything. The hamstring might just be tight or actually tight because of another condition, and oftentimes it is. So let's get started into the 4. Now the first one is an assisted knee tuck. I'll do on this leg. An assisted knee tuck. So you're going to use your hands to help the knee get towards the chest, and it'll lock out here. And then you're just going to pump the leg towards the sky. And because of my limited range of motion, I can't get much past this. Some people can straighten their leg their whole way. And if they can, they probably shouldn't be doing this one anyways. But lock this in there, pump. We usually do about 10 times or so. If you can tolerate it, bring the toes to the face. And this will make it a little bit harder. Next one is an active knee tuck with kicking. Now an active knee tuck, we're basically bringing the hip up like this by using our abdominal cavity, and make sure that you cough and engage the trunk before you actually do this. So cough, engage the trunk like someone's going to step on you. Hands on the rib cage here. Bring the hip up on your own power. Extend the knee. Take deep breaths through the rib cage or through the hands on the side. Just like that. Okay? We do this about 10 times, so hip up actively, extend the foot, breathe into the hands, and bring it down. So we have a passive one, so this is a passive straight leg raise. So passive because we have the rope, straight leg because it's a straight leg. And this is the one you're probably more accustomed to. We're going to bring this up and hold it for about 10 seconds or so. Again, I typically like to ask that they unlock the knee slightly, just for joint integrity right here. If you lock the knee, it might pinch a couple things within the knee. And we're going to pull up Hold for about 10 there. Don't feel like you're getting to the point where you're going to rip things off, and slowly lower. Rest for about 2, 3, 4 seconds. Come on up. Hold for 10. Now this shouldn't make things worse at all, and keep in mind that the straight leg raise is actually a test for a disc injury, or what we call radiculopathy, or which is a nerve condition. This test will actually make that condition worse, and we'll talk about this at the very end. You have to make sure you go see a doctor to make sure that you have the right type of rehab program for your condition in the first place. So this is your passive straight leg stretch. Next one is the most advanced of all of them. It is an active straight leg test, which is basically the first test we did in the first place. So we're going to straighten the knee, lock this, cough to make sure that you have rib cage dropped. Hands right here, because you're going to press out, breathing into the hands to expand this way. So again, cough, hands, bring this up as high as you can with the knees pretty much locked. Deep breath. Deep breath. We're expanding the rib cage this way, and slowly lower. This one is going to be much, much harder than the other ones. When you're at the top, deep breaths. In the nose. Out the mouth. And slowly lower. Again, cough. Hands on the rib cage. Raise it up. In the nose. Out the mouth. Really deep breaths. I usually shoot for about 3. And make sure when you come down that it's a slow lower and it's not just a drop. Now I hope this was helpful, and obviously there are other types of conditions which do not use this type of rehab program. One is radiculopathy of the low back to the leg, which seems like it's a hamstring condition, but it's really not. So I strongly suggest go see your doctor, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel because you will get all of my videos as they come out, and I try to put only the best stuff out there. If you have a question for me on our podcast, it is the P2 Sports Care, or sorry, it's the Performance Place Sports Care podcast, which we air it every week. We feature as many questions as we possibly can, and we get the best experts we possibly can on that as well. Take care.